Hello, welcome back to the Sunday afternoon stream. Today is Sunday, May 18th. I am Angela Holden, coming to you from St. Paul, Minnesota, where we do front-end development, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. No frameworks, no libraries. We're just practicing the vanilla stuff. Where are we here? So, hope everybody is doing well. Hey, if you're new to the channel, like, subscribe, do all the YouTube-y things. I really appreciate that. I don't think that I ask often enough. And Go Elmo Go is here. Hello, hello. So happy to see you. Happy to have you back again today. Yeah, I really, I started streaming. It'll be a year in August. So we're 9 months now. And I really want to get the channel to 1,000 subscribers. I'm also going to start doing I have more content planned, scripted, ready to go. So you can look forward to that as well. Yeah, really want to get the channel to 1,000 subscribers. And I think we can add a lot of value here on YouTube, helping developers get back to basics. And really, the reason I decided to do this, I think I talk about this. I'm not, this isn't the first time I've talked about this. It was really my experience working with new junior developers who spent tens of thousands of dollars on a boot camp and didn't understand core foundational basics. And when I'm talking about basics, I mean things like the difference between a div and a span and why you would choose one over the other. Positioning, position relative, position absolute, position fixed, z-index. I mean, these are all basic core foundational concepts in HTML and CSS. Yet they had spent tens of thousands of dollars on a boot camp to learn, React or whatever. No shade to React. I feel like I'm pissing all over frameworks and I don't mean to do that. But I think you know what my point is here. It's about making sure that we understand the basics. That's what we're doing here. So yesterday we started building the inner page of our blog website, and I do have this linked down in the description if you want to take a look. It's also on GitHub. It's open source. Fork it, use it, do whatever you want with it. We're building this inner blog page. Oh, and I did not pull up the mockups. Let me grab that really quick. Where are you? I also adjusted my mic today so I could actually see my keyboard. So hopefully you can hopefully you can hear me okay. It's a little closer though to my mouth. So it hopefully the sound is better too. But it's also not in my way so I can see my keyboard. Always helps. So this is the home page that's done. This is a masonry layout. That's done. And then I'm just going to skip down to the bottom here. This is a mock-up for our responsive nav. That's done. This is the mock-up for our search drawer. That is done. So now we're working on... So these pages look identical. These are the inner blog post page. The difference is that this one has a slider, and we are going to build the slider with vanilla JavaScript. So I'm really looking forward to that. But before we do that, we're going to build its sibling page, which is an identical layout. It just has a static image. So, and Go Elmo Go tells me that the sound is fine. And Emilio is here. Welcome, Emilio. You brought your popcorn and you're waving hello to me. And I'm so happy to have you here. I love it. I love it when people come back. You guys find value. That brings me joy to know that you guys are actually getting something out of this. That's the point. That's the point. It's finding an audience that wants to learn and is curious and excited. And I think that it speaks volumes that if you're an aspiring front end developer and you're watching a live stream of a front end developer, it speaks volumes about where your head is at. So I just want you guys to get out there and start building stuff. Okay. So due to the work that we did on the home page, this page is like building itself, right? So this layout was just like chef's kiss, boom, it fell right into place yesterday when we created this page. What I did was drop in something that we call HTML kitchen sink. Let's get over here. This is HTML kitchen sink. And the point of this is that it's if you go out and buy a mock-up, it's not likely to show the styles for every conceivable HTML element. So if you're working on a site and you're building out a page, Google HTML kitchen sink, grab some just generic HTML, drop it into a page, and then you're just sort of covering your bases style-wise. So, oh, and Emilio says, you taught me how to use span better than anyone. I know watching how you structure your websites. I share your YouTube page, One Handshake, and my college's social media page all the time. Oh, thank you, Emilio. That you make me feel so good. Honestly, Emilio, I know you're in Nebraska. If you're ever in Minnesota, buddy, look me up. I would love to hang out with you sometime. I feel like you've kind of been here from the beginning. And yeah, I just think you sound like somebody that I would really love to hang out with sometime. I feel like I'm making this weird now, and I don't mean to do that. I'm just saying I really appreciate you and your kindness. And yeah, I think you are a really, really nice guy. And then Anshu, love from India. Can I get, let's see here. Can I get your LinkedIn? I love your work. Thank you so much. Yes, let me drop my LinkedIn into the chat. One moment here. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I don't know. I should make sure that I have that linked someplace, huh? Let's see here. There you go. Autocorrect be trying to take me out. Haha, love for sure. That's not what I meant, Emilio. I'm just saying, if you're ever in Minneapolis, I'm not asking you out, okay? That's not what I'm trying to use this platform for. I'm just saying, you seem like such an incredibly kind person. If you're ever in St. Paul, send me a message. I would definitely take you out and buy you a cup of coffee. So, and there's my LinkedIn profile. So happy to connect with anybody who wants to on LinkedIn. I don't check LinkedIn every single day. Hang on one second. Okay. And Go Elmo Go is laughing at me. That's fine. Please, it's okay. You can laugh at me. Yes. Definitely hit me up on LinkedIn. Happy to connect with anybody who wants to. Listen, I mean, I'll be honest, one of the other reasons I started this channel is that I wanted to genuinely connect with other front-end developers. I mean, I know other developers just from people that I've worked with over the years. I would really love to start forming connections with people outside of the Twin Cities area, people in other states and cities and parts of the world. I really want to start building an actual community of other people and getting to know other people. Like, I don't know. I just think that sounds really, really cool and fun. And, you know, I have lots of reasons for doing this channel. That's one of them. And I'm not, I know I don't mean to make it weird, but I'm going to be totally honest about the fact that I want to make friends in this community. I do. I want to make more friends in this community. So just being a weirdo and not caring. Okay. Let's finish with our styles, shall we? So we got about this far. We set the page up. We got about this far. I'm not making big changes. We made some changes to the H1s, the H2s, the H3s. The paragraphs are fine. The unordered lists are fine. The ordered lists are fine. And then we got as far as styling our table. Responsive, accessible. It looks amazing. So happy with it. So that took quite a bit of time yesterday. So let's see what the next thing is here after our table. I'm just going to collapse this. So we have an H4, another paragraph, and then we have a block quote. So let's see here. And then we also have, okay, so we have pre-code. Is there a browser default for that? Yes, that's what this is right here. So it's like a block of code, pre. Let's make this a little bigger. And then we have, so there's block quote, but there's also quote, INS, which I've never heard of before. There's sub. There's DFN, VAR, mark. Okay, full disclosure, I've never heard of those before. SAMP, SAMP. Site I've heard of. Abbreviation I've heard of. KBD, never heard of. Emphasis, which is sort of replaced italics. So if you ever use I for italic, the correct way to do that is really EM for emphasis. Small, yeah, I've heard of small. I don't really use it though. And then of course we have A for anchor or href. Xcode, I've never seen that. DEL, no. Time, ooh, we talked about time yesterday. And then we have, okay, I actually do DL. A DL is, the DL element represents an association list consisting of 0 or more name value groups, a description list. And then we've got form. I don't think I'm going to style all these things. I think they're interesting and we could definitely look some of these up. Let's actually look some of these up. In my experience, these are things that are rarely used. The things that I am going to style are, I'm going to style pre, we're going to style block quote, we're going to style cite, we're going to style strong or bold, we'll style emphasis, and we're styling time. I don't think I'm going to style the rest of that stuff. In my experience, those things are incredibly specific. And in the future, if somebody has a need for those things, they can go and if they fork the project, they can go style those things. So let's see here. I can close this. There we go. Okay, so, but I'm curious about what some of these things are. MDN, HTML, INS. The inserted text element. The inserted element represents a range of text that has been added to a document. You can use the DEL element to similarly represent a range of text that has been deleted from the document. Can you gift me any Mac as my birthday gift? No, I can't. But you have balls for asking. Hi, looks cool. I will watch this while creating a simple web landing page. Good. Glad that you're going to be coding along with me. I love that. I love that. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm here to help. Okay, so INS is the inserted text element. Oh, okay. So this looks like this looks like the user interface on GitHub, right? When you're committing and it's showing you what was removed and what was added. Okay, so now we know what INS and DEL are. Sub is, let's see here. Can we just find it in the list? The subscript element specifies inline text which should be displayed as subscript for solely typographical reasons. Subscripts are typically rendered with a lowered baseline using smaller text. Got it. Okay, I wonder if is there a browser default for that? Let's see. Okay, so this is the block of text that we're reviewing. So it looks like, I don't know if you can see it here. Let me make this a little bigger. So it looks like this word right here, lied, is already getting some browser default. So I'm not going to do any special styles for that. So let's take out inserted. And then let's take out deleted. We know we're not going to use those. Okay. We can leave sub in. DFN, what is that? Definition? The definition element indicates a term to be defined. The DFM element should be used in a complete definition statement where the full definition of the term can be one of the following: the ancestor paragraph, a block of text, sometimes marked by the paragraph element, the DT-DD pairing, the nearest section ancestor of the definition element. Okay, so a validator is a program that checks for syntax errors in code. So it's basically calling out validator indicates a term to be defined. Okay, so I could see how that would be helpful for SEO. Using this kind of semantic HTML, if you had text that was really focusing on defining concepts. So let's see here. Morbid ceremonial plunge. And this already has default browser styling. It's italicized, so we don't need to do anything for that. So VAR, Let's see what that is. The variable element represents the name of a variable in a mathematical expression or a programming context. Well, thank you for the subscription. I appreciate that. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not able to gift new computers to people, but I am appreciative of the new sub. So thank you for that. Appreciate it. So basically, this is an HTML way of showing variables for any kind of an expression. Okay. Throws. And this also has some italicized text, so I'm not going to worry about that. Mark. Let's see what mark is. The marked text element represents text which is marked or highlighted for reference or notation purposes due to the marked passage's relevance in the enclosing context. Okay, so this makes sense, I guess. Let's see. Rampart damage. Let's see if that has styles. Oh, it does. Yeah, it's highlighted. Okay. We don't need to do any additional styling for that. So I'm going to leave that in. Strong also has some default styles, so I don't think we need to do anything additional for that. SAMP, it looks like it has some unique style. It changes fonts here, so let's just read what this is. The sample output element is used to enclose inline text which represents sample or quoted output from a computer program. Its contents are typically rendered using the browser's default monospaced font such as Courier or Lucinda Console. Okay, so that makes sense. We can leave that in. Is it... Yeah, I don't think we need to do anything different there. Site, vanishing twilight unheard of. Where is it here? This also is italicized. So I'm going to guess that that is citation. The cite element is used to mark up the title of a creative work. The reference may be in an abbreviated form according to context-appropriate conventions related to citation metadata. And I think the thing to keep in mind here, guys, is that yes, we're doing this for the purposes of styling, but these HTML tags, their purpose is to add semantic value to the content. And semantic value helps search engine optimization and it helps accessibility. It helps with styling also, but its main purpose, its main goal is to make it rich and semantic for the purposes of good search engine optimization and accessibility. So if you are using a screen reader and you can't actually see the styles, this will add some value, and it's just great for SEO. So I wouldn't say that I use or that I see lots of tags like this. The things that I see most often are strong and emphasis. Sometimes I see sup for, I think means super or raising. And sometimes I see sub for that sort of lowering or sub baseline. I see those occasionally. Citation, I see mostly inside of block quotes. Sometimes I see small, and then of course time. We did that yesterday. Anytime you have a blog, I would highly recommend that you use time with the date time attribute anytime you're building a blog and you've got dates and times on your content. When learning HTML 2 weeks ago, I was really surprised to see the many variations of HTML tags, but it was quite interesting to try. Yeah, there's a ton out there, and clearly, I don't know all of them, not even close. That's why I encourage people to get comfortable reading documentation. And I think MDN, I mean, there's a lot of great websites with good reference data, good reference material for HTML tags, but I personally really love MDN. And so, yeah, I would say just get really comfortable understanding the different types of HTML, get a good understanding of what is a block level element, what is an inline element. That's really going to help you when you're building layouts. And just always keep search engine optimization and accessibility in the forefront of your mind. I know that can be really overwhelming in the beginning of your career as a developer, but try to make it a habit of being very SEO and accessibility minded. So, and Amelia says, I honestly did not know about time. Going to have to go update a few things. MDN is where it's at. Yeah, and I really, really love it. So, we love MDN here. We look at it a lot. I think there's another one, HTML dog. Is that still a thing? I think their references, tags, all of the valid HTML5 tags with description and usage. I mean, I used to use HTML dog all the time. So I think this is a good reference also. There's lots of websites. I feel like MDN is kind of the gold standard. So, okay, what else do we have down here? Let's look at, I want to see DL. Description list element. I have heard of DL. I don't think I've ever used DL. Okay, so Shazeb is saying, if you tell me how much you earn by writing code, then I will not have to ask for a gift from any relative and then I will earn. Well, I mean, I don't know how to answer that question because everybody makes a different amount, right? I don't think there's one clear salary for how much people earn. It's a complex question that I won't be able to necessarily answer for you, unfortunately. In the Twin Cities area, I think people don't earn quite as much in the Twin Cities as they do in other parts of the country. I know overall in the US, developers too tend to earn a little bit more. And I probably shouldn't spend too much time answering this question. If you're looking for a job, I wish you luck. The best advice I can give you is how to actually be a good developer. I'm not very good at teaching people how to negotiate salaries or certainly not an expert on regional pay differences. So I'm not a good person to help you with that, unfortunately. I apologize. But if you want to get good at HTML and CSS, you're in the right place. So, okay. So DL, the description list element, I have heard of this. And it is good for unique styling. And again, a lot of this depends on the actual content that you have, right? So if you're in the styling phase of building a website and you don't actually have any of the content and images yet, which is very, very common in the beginning phases, depending on the organization, or if you have any kind of clue or hint about what the content's going to look like, you may want to style something for this. Most of the time, an ordered list and an ordered list and unordered list are fine. And then if you get back feedback that you've got these really specific types of lists and you think it fits into this category, you may want to style this. So that's my best advice for some of these things. And if you think I'm wrong and you have a different point of view about this, let me know. I'm always willing to hear what other people's experiences are. Okay, so let's look now at, so I'm going to guess that ABBR means abbreviation. SUP means super, as in elevated or raised up. I know what that means. What does KBD mean? Keyboard input element represents a span of inline text denoting textual user input from a keyboard, voice input, or any other text entry device. By convention, the user agent defaults to rendering the contents of a KBD element using its default monospace font, although it's not mandated by the HTML standard. So T. I'm guessing that this is, I mean, we can leave that. I don't know if this is really a unique style or not. And then we've got small right here, which is just a smaller size text. And then we've got an anchor. This is interesting. We need to make sure our anchors are correctly styled. So I bet if we add an href, there we go. I don't know why you would have an anchor text, an anchor tag if you didn't use the href, but we do have our link style. That's good. And then Xcode. Let's see what Xcode is. I don't see a result for this. I'm curious though. Let's ask ChatGPT. Is this a valid HTML element? No. Xcode is not a standard or valid HTML element. However, it could be valid in specific contexts. Framework-specific syntax. Got it. Okay, so I'm going to take this out. What did we decide with this? You know what? I'm going to leave these things in. I took out the things that I absolutely know I'm not going to style. And we can leave the rest in. I think it's fine. Although this isn't really appropriate. So we would actually want to put a date in here with the date time. So do May 18th, 2025. We'll do a date time. go. All right. Yeah, I don't know if there's really anything we need to do here because our strong is bold, our emphasized where was it? I just saw it. Oh, here it is. So our emphasis is italic, and the browser is taking care of the rest of this. So I'm going to call it good. So let's make sure, let's go back up here. Let's make sure that we've got a decent block level block quote styles. I have learned HTML, CSS completely and 70% of JavaScript. Now I should jump to React. Wow. I've never met anybody who said that they completely learned HTML and CSS. It sounds like you are feeling very confident about your skills, and I think that you will do just fine as a developer. And yeah, it seems like the next natural step would definitely be to learn a framework. So you sound very confident, and I think you'll do well. That's good. We need good, competent, confident developers out there. So I think you'll do well. Okay, block quote time. To be a little bigger. Okay. This over here. So I'm wondering if our block quote should be part of our main and not specific to the blog. That might be better. Actually, let's go toolkit. Yeah. And there are lots of ways to style block quotes. There are lots of ways to style block quotes. This is just the way that I tend to do it. So I'm going to give this a background color of kind of like a soft gray. And we'll give it a little padding of 1 rem. And I think by default it has a lot of margin. So let's take that margin off. Well, actually, let's also do a rem of margin. I think this needs a little extra padding. Oh, this is going to get annoying. There we go. And then I think I'm going to put a border on the left. We'll do border left, 5 pixels, solid. Do we have what's our color palette? Oh, we don't have much of a color palette here, do we? I think that I'm just going to do black. We're just going to keep it simple and minimal. So this is a very simple, and I'm also going to take the margin off on the left. So instead we'll do a rem on the top, a rem on the right, a rem on the bottom, and 0 on the left. So 4 values for padding and margin, it's clockwise. So it's, yeah, it goes clockwise. So it's top, right, bottom, left. There we go. Very simple, very simple. And then we have a paragraph inside. We have a footer inside, and then we have a citation, and the citation is getting some italic. So that's our style for block quotes. Very simple. And I'm going to take off, I'm going to take off the margin on the top for any paragraph tag inside of a block quote. So we'll just do this. We'll say margin top 0. There we go. So now that looks a little more spaced out. Easy peasy. And then if somebody comes along and forks this, they can do whatever they want with it. But we did provide baseline styles for a block quote. You know what else I think I might do? I think I might also take, no, we'll leave it. I think I'm going to take the margin off the right also. So in that case, we can abbreviate, and we can do we can do 1 rem on the top and bottom and 0 on the left and right. There we go. Yeah, that looks a little more even. Okay. And then after the block quote, we have a paragraph, and then we have a pre. And then let's remind ourselves what pre is. The pre-formatted text element. Basically for a block of text. Width contains the preferred count of characters that a line should have. Though technically still implemented, this attribute has no visual effect. Wrap is a hint indicating how the overflow must happen. Yeah, I'm not too worried about that. You're welcome. I do my best to, I'm not good at answering questions that aren't directly code related, clearly. So thank you for showing up. Thank you for putting your questions in the chat, and I really do my best to answer the questions that I'm comfortable answering. Okay. So here's our pre right here, and clearly this needs, I think we could just do white space wrap. Oh, let's see here. White space pre. Oh, I did no wrap. No, we need wrap. There we go. So by default, it has a white space of pre, which is no wrap. And then let's go ahead and put, let's just go ahead and put like a little background on this. Doesn't need a lot. We'll put a little padding and a background on it. So we'll do this here too. We'll make this more of a global style. So we're going to say white space wrap, and then we'll say background color. We'll do just a soft gray. And then we'll give it some padding of a rem, and then we'll just give it a little border radius. We'll say 10 pixels. And I think this will start to look like a traditional text block. And then let's also, I think it needs a little more padding on the left and right. So we'll do 2 rems on the left and right. And then, yeah, I think this looks, actually, let's just do it all the way around. Now this looks like a traditional text block that you would come in and copy and paste. I'm glad you're using this website. I had no idea it existed. Now I can get even better with my personal projects. So I'm guessing that you are referring to MDN. Is that what, or HTML dog, one of those two? I'm guessing MDN. So good. I'm glad you find it helpful. I think it's amazing. I look at MDN all the time. See how nice this is starting to look now? We have a table, we have a block quote, we have a pre-formatted code section. What do we have next? We have an H6, which is tiny. I'm not going to do anything with that. I'm just going to leave it. And then we have this paragraph with all this other stuff that we've already gone through. We have an HR. I use HR all the time. If you've never used an HR, it is a horizontal rule. So the thematic break element, I use HR all of the time. So let's actually style an HR. Let's just do something kind of fun. Let's see here. So we've already got just a very basic HR, and this is coming from Normalize. So let's go ahead and add a little extra zhuzh to it. The border is a browser default. So the only thing coming from Normalize is the box size and content box. Height 0, overflow visible. So let's just change that border. Let's do a dotted line. So we'll say border 5 pixels dotted, and we'll do something just a slightly darker gray. Oops. Border bottom. And then I think we're going to have to, if we do border none and then border bottom, does that work? Make me do all of them. Yep, that works. So we did border none, but then we specified the bottom. So this is our horizontal rule now. Why content box instead of border box? I don't know why. And it does have some margin. I'm going to add a little more margin. Let's do a full rem on the top and bottom. And 0 on the left and right. Let's do 2. I think it should have, I use HRs, like when I use them, I want them to be a distinct break. And it needs to be bigger than just the margin from a paragraph. It needs to be more distinct than that. So I'm going to increase it to 2. And then here's our, what did we call this? The DL is the defined list. Is that what it is? Description list. So this already has styling. So the DT is the description term element. And then what's the other thing? The DD. The description details. Do we need to do anything? We could make the DT bold, I guess. We'll just say font weight, I think 700. Yeah, that works. Then we could do something, something somewhat stylish like we did with our block quote, like this border here, that just makes it stand out a little bit as slightly unique. So let's do DD. So it's already got by default margin inline start 40 pixels. So let's add, we'll say padding left 1 rem, and then we'll say border left 5 pixels solid black. That is a bit much, isn't it? I kind of feel like I could use some more margin. But that's giving each item. Well, they are distinct things, right? And then what if we gave it a little background? What do we think of that? I love it. I love it. Nice. Look at us. All right, now we have some form styles. One moment here. All right. we have a forms. So we have a lot of form styles already. So I think, and we kind of have this list here, right? So we may just need to add to this list. Actually, we may just need to put a class of form. I mean, we have two different forms. We have a subscription form and we have like a comment form. So if we just add the class form, that might be all we need. Pretty close. Okay, so what is this? So number. Input type number, okay. That might have been a mistake. All right, that works. And then, so we have a label search, input type search. Okay, we can add that. Oh, yeah, it's using all of the styles from our search drawer. Which makes me think that I should change this class so those are separate. Let's take a look-see. So here's our search input. And this is form class form search. And then what was the other thing I saw here? Subscribe with a parent of form. Submit button with parent of form. Which did I use? Submit button with a parent of form. I think I should change that. Form search. So those are completely separate and specific. And then this subscribe is for the actual form. And then this search is specific just to the drawer. Yep, that worked. And that worked. Yep, and that worked here as well. Good. Okay. There's more. There's a bunch more. Okay. But these inputs are all accounted for. Input time. Okay. So, I mean, I guess we can just add these. So we've got time, date, date time local, week, And then we've got text area. Time, date. Let's just see how it looks. Time, date. Yeah, those actually look great. Hang on. Did I get that one wrong? Date, time, local. I think it is good to specify your inputs rather than just doing blanket styles for all inputs, because checkboxes and radio buttons are also considered inputs. So it's a good best practice to define a list of inputs so you don't give these styles to your checkboxes and your radio buttons. So there's date, time, local. What's this one? Date, just plain date. Got it. Yeah, those look great. And then whoever comes along and forks this project, they can do any additional styles that they want. Love it. And then we've got week and text area. Beautiful. I don't think I've ever used, I mean, I know I've used time and date. I don't think I've ever used date, time, local, or week. But yeah, those are totally valid. So I generally hide labels, but I'm going to go ahead and keep them here. I think this is perfectly fine. These don't really need any styles at all. I think they are fine exactly the way they are. And then let's do something for the text area. Well, can we just add text area here? I think we can. Yeah, I think that's fine. Beautiful. Okay, what's next? I think our legend looks fine. So we've got type, month. What is this? Yeah, so here's our inputs for checkboxes. Here's type color. Okay, well, let's just start adding these and we'll decide what we want to do for the checkbox, if we want to do anything special for that. Type, month, and type color. We maybe want to do something unique for this. Yeah, let's do something unique for this. It doesn't like the padding. Hey, we made it pretty far without needing to do a unique style for any of these. We may still want to put it on this list and just change the padding. And I'm going to change the width too. We'll just say width 100 pixels, and then we'll do, well, I don't think we need to do a max width. There we go. And let's add some margin on the top and bottom. Is this not a block level element? That's the label. Oh, probably because, yeah. And we'll make a display block. And Emilio says, I got pretty good with regular CSS and started using sass, and I'm kind of a fan of it. It was a weird switch at first, but now it feels natural. I got a long way to go before I can do it without. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it felt very natural to me to switch to sass, so I'm glad you enjoy it. I think what is great about sass is the ability to have multiple style sheets that compile into one style sheet. So it's really the ability to define these partial style sheets and to have define mix-ins and variables. Those are, in my opinion, the benefits of sass that I really, really like. I have a hard time switching back to vanilla CSS because of the nesting. I just forget what I'm doing and I'm constantly nesting things, which the browser actually knows how to handle that most of the time. So if I find myself nesting, the problem is that Chrome will accept it and still output the CSS correctly. So I won't even realize that I'm doing that. So yeah, I like sass. I think it's really nice. I'm a fan. I'm glad you enjoy it too. So I think this is good for the color input. Puts it on its own line, makes it a little more prominent. And then I don't know if we really need to do anything here. Input type file. I mean, some of these things, oh, we have radio buttons here too. So input type file, input type hidden, input type image. These actually, file hidden image, these might all be good here. Let's try it. Equals file, input type equals hidden. Input type equals image. That works because it puts everything on its own line. I think we need to make sure that we've got some margin on all of these. So that's there we go. Give everything a little breathing room. Let's come back up to this checkbox. I don't usually style checkboxes. I usually just do the browser defaults. Sometimes I get mockups that are very specific and want specific checkbox styles, which you have to do some sort of pseudo before and after in order to do that. So I'm not going to do anything here. What I am going to do is, well, let's see here. So it's inside the label, which doesn't have a class. It would just be nice to have some margin. I don't also, let's take this out. The input doesn't need to be inside the label. We can just give it an ID. We'll say label for I think we would have to be specific, like actually let's just look it up. Where's our inputs? Checkbox. So the type, so it's whatever the, so the ID and the name match the label. Got it. So this would be sharp decided. So this would be ID sharp decided. That would also likely be the name. Oops. Your name is almost always going to be the API value because the action on your form is usually an API endpoint where you're sending the data, and the name is almost always going to be the API value. Where at the destination do you need to match this data up to in order to get this information into that database or wherever? I'm thinking Salesforce is what I'm thinking, because that is what where I just came from. Not the organization, but we use Salesforce. So I always had to make sure I had the correct name so I knew where to put that data. So label for, and then the name is the name of the actual value. Now I can add margin. So this would be type checkbox. And we want to switch that, put the label after. So these are inline elements. So what would happen if I put margin bottom? I don't think anything's going to happen because it's an inline element. Oh, that did work. Display inline block. Nice. That's why that worked. So now, okay, I like it. So we're just going to do input type checkbox margin. Input margin bottom. All right, that just gives that a little breathing room. All right, and now we have a very similar situation here with some radio buttons. Good timing. So we have a label, and all of these things are so yeah, I don't usually do it that way. So the label will be after the input. Can handle that. So the type is radio. The name is actually, we're going to say the name is the value. And we can say, oh, no, stop. ID equals, just to keep it simple. And then we'll say 4. I feel like I'm doing this wrong though. I feel like the name is actually supposed to be the name of the entire thing. So the name would actually be, because the API value is what question or what option are they asking. So maybe it would be this right here. We could say so this is the name. Like this is the question being asked, right? Now, these are all part of the same question being asked. So whatever it is that gets selected, this is the value that it gets associated with at the destination, at the endpoint. And then this is the ID and the 4. and this is the ID. And the 4. Nice. Now let's see how it looks. Yeah, it looks fine. Let's make this. So I'm guessing these are also inline block. They are. We don't want to make them block. We could, just for the heck of it, just put a break, and that'll just push everything to the second line. I think that's fine. And then let's do, let's give the input type radio a little bit of margin. And that'll just add a little space, a little breathing room. There. Beautiful. Okay. Range. I have never used range. And this has a lot of browser default. So I'm guessing range is just to grab some sort of value and send it back to a JavaScript function. Or again, it's a form. So maybe, yeah, it's probably just to send that data back to a destination. Fair enough. I've personally never used the range input before. So let's add that to this, just to give it a little space. Input type equals range. Beautiful. Okay, so now we've got a bunch of buttons. Input type button, input type reset, and we've got styles for all of these. And then we've got also a select. So let's see here. So we've got input type search, subscribe, submit button. But we also have, I think we also have button styles, don't we? I feel that CSS without framework is freedom. We can access all of it, even though it takes time and effort. Agreed. I don't like spending a lot of time looking up like a syntax thing, right? Like I'm pretty good at CSS at this point, so I know what to do, what properties I need in order to get the look that I need to have. So when a framework's sort of like syntax is holding me back, I don't really like that either. So I agree. Do I have, but I thought that I had buttons, but I can't remember. Well, let's just look. Let's look in. So there's button styles and normalize. We're in search. So we can use, I think we can borrow the styles for So the subscribe form is this right here. So I think we can use these styles. You know what? Let's just do some button styles. We'll do something a little unique. So we've got, we're just going to do button, and then we're going to do input type button, input type reset, input type submit, and then button. And then this will be the unique style just for that form, that sidebar. So we've got input type equals submit, input type equals reset. What else? Input type button. Type button, and then button. And then let's just do a class of button. And these will all be part of the form. And let's borrow, let's borrow some of these, but we're going to change some of these also. So I think I want these to be display inline block. And I want the width to be auto. We'll see if this works. And I want the background color to be transparent. I want the border to be black. And I want it to be 2 pixels. And then on hover active focus, I want the background color to be black, the border color to be black, which we've already got, and the color to be white. Yep, those work. And then let's just make sure that they've got a little margin. So we'll say margin bottom 1 rem. All right, there's our buttons. So now anytime you need a button, you can just make a button element and add a class of button. We included that in the styles right here. Of course, it's inside a form element. So if you're making a, we should probably do a button that is not inside the form element. Let's do this. Let's copy this. I'm going to take these out because most buttons are not inside a form element. So let's do this. Take this out. Oops. And then we'll take these out. There we go. So now we have styles specific to buttons, and let's change it up a little bit. Let's do the opposite. So this is a background color of black, a border of black, and then we'll change it to, this would be a background color of white and a color of black. Oh, and the color would, nope, the color would be white. What am I doing here? Color white. There we go. So here's our button elements, which could be used anywhere, but here are the buttons specific to a form, which are inverted. Perfect. Okay, so now we have a select. So I actually think that we could just use, let's see if we can just use this. Select. We can. Here's the thing with selects though. You do not have control over this little arrow. So usually you put in your own. And we can do that. We can do that. Do I have an arrow? Let's see here. What do these look like? I don't. Okay, so let's grab like a caret, an arrow, and I will show you how to put those in. It is incredibly handy to be able to know how to do that. Ionicons. Oops. We'll do this right here. Chevron down. And I'm going to take that SVG and add it right into the markup. So I'm going to put that after, and we're going to say aria hidden true, so it doesn't get read out to a screen reader. So it is a sibling of select. The SVG is a sibling of select. It would be better if it was a child of select. I don't think I can put it inside select. Don't think I can. Let's ask ChatGPT. It would be easier for me if I could. Can I put an SVG inside select element? It would make styling so much easier. Yeah, I didn't think so. No, you cannot put an SVG inside a select element in a way that works natively across browsers. The select element and its option children are rendered by the operating system or browser's native UI, not the HTML rendering engine, which means no SVGs, no images, no nested HTML, very limited styling. This is a long-standing limitation of native select elements. Style the arrow with the background SVG, yeah. So, maybe I just shouldn't worry about it. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. I'm trying to make this as clean and simple and semantic as possible. And the reality is when you style forms, especially on big enterprise level websites, usually every input or element is inside of a div because there's a lot of styling. We're putting in SVGs and custom arrows because the native support for styling inside a select is very limited, and that's just a thing. So let's just go ahead and style this like I know I would if I was at a job right now. So we're going to put a div class select on this. I'm going to hide this label with access hidden, and we'll do label for select, and we'll give this an ID of select. And now this is an example for whoever comes along and forks this repository and sees an example of how to style something, which is the whole point. So here's our select. And let's style her. Let's get her styled. Oops, come on. There we go. So we'll leave this here so it gets that all these sort of other form styles. And we'll come down here, and then we'll do select inside of a form element, and we're going to say position relative because we are going to absolutely position that arrow. So position relative, and we are saying position relative for, oh, one moment here. Okay, I'm back. I have an anxious dog. I'm not sure why. She's barking. So, okay. So the class select is on the div. So now we're going to do the actual select element. So within the class. So now we'll do select. Well, actually, no. We want the SVG is what we want. We want the SVG, and that's going to be, well, it's going to be display block because SVGs by default are display inline. So we'll say display block. We'll give it a width of 20 pixels and a height of 20 pixels. And then I'm going to say position absolute, which takes it out of the flow. And we'll say top 0, and we'll say right. We want right 0. And we're going to move that around a little bit. And let's see how it looks. All right. So we need now to move this down and cover up the old arrow. So I'm going to say top. Well, we know the fill or the stroke, whatever the SVG is using, we know that that's black, but we want the background to be white. So when we move it down, it covers up the old arrow. So let's also do background color white. background color, white. And then I want it to be exactly in the middle of the input, but I want that to be a dynamic value. So I'm going to say top 50%, which moves it down 50%. And so the top is in the 50%, the middle of the select. There's the select. Well, it's including the margin. So we should probably take that margin off. It's including the margin. So I think we're going to have to say, for this we'll say select, that's not what I want, select margin bottom 0. That'll put it in the middle now. Now it's in the middle. You can see it's in the middle. The top of the SVG is in the middle of the input. But we don't want the top in the middle, we want the thing itself in the middle. So the way we do that is we say transform, translate Y. The Y is the vertical axis, the X is the horizontal axis. And we're going to say minus 50%. And that will move it back up. So now it's in the middle, but we need to shift it over to the left a little bit. So we'll say 10 pixels. Shift it to the other side about 10 pixels. Oh, and that's a little too much because we can see our arrow. So right about there. 4. So there's our new arrow. Now here's the problem. Here's the rub. It took me a while to figure this out. So here we can click anywhere on the select and trigger that. But if you happen to click right on the SVG, nothing happens because the SVG is covering up. This little 20 pixels by 20 pixels is covering up, and we can actually make this a little bigger too. Yeah, we can make that a little bigger, and then maybe we can shift it over a little more. Still only about 4, but that's a little bigger. So anyways, the SVG, you're not actually clicking on the select, you're clicking on the SVG, and the way to cure that is we just say, is it pointer events? We just say pointer events, none. Which basically means it's here, but it doesn't exist. Now we can click on it. So that is how you do a custom arrow for a select. You just cover up the old one. But you have to have that select inside a div and just do a little absolute positioning. Absolute positioning is totally appropriate. It's kind of aggressive, but it's totally appropriate. And if you know here's the other thing though, is this only works if you don't have any margin. So once we add margin, you are adding height. You're adding to the overall height of the select input itself, or I guess it's not an input drop down. So we took the margin off. That's why that translate Y works. But if you have margin and you know the fixed height of the input, you could just do that in pixels. It would be completely fine, completely fine. So, have you tried full stack development also, or do you like front-end development as your main focus? Yeah, I mean, I basically... in my last job, I basically was a full stack developer. I mean, the emphasis was on front end, but I did everything because my team was so small and there were only 2 of us, and I had a junior developer that I mentored and supervised. And I mean, I spent so little of my time actually doing front-end development because I was working in a content management system that used something called Velocity, which is like this Java-based templating. I didn't do a ton of database stuff. I did a lot of database stuff when I was in WordPress. I spent a lot of time in AWS, did a lot of DevOps problem solving. So I feel, and I also have a full stack development certificate, and I have a software engineering degree. So I've certainly learned full stack development. I can work with APIs. I understand how to build APIs. I know how to do all of that stuff. But what I really, really love is front end. This is what I really, really love. I think as front end developers, it is actually, this is just my opinion, it will be very rare that you will be in a job as a front end developer just writing HTML and CSS. I'm sure those jobs exist, but I think that you will find yourself on a team doing many different things. You will be doing DevOps. You will be working in some sort of a content management system. You will be building APIs. You could have a job where you spend the majority of your time on forms and troubleshooting. Why doesn't this form work? How do I get this data over to this database or CMS? Like, maybe I'll use Salesforce as an example because the place I just worked, we use Salesforce. And I spent an enormous amount of time working on forms. So every job I've had, I would consider full stack because of the amount of time that I spent working in a content management system and dealing with DevOps problem solving. And when I say DevOps, I'm talking about version control, deployment, and getting things from a staging environment into a production environment without breaking everything. So spend a lot of time on DevOps. That's why I tell people, make sure that you get really, really good with basic DevOps. You don't have to do a deep dive, but I think it would be incredibly helpful if you bought a domain name, you bought yourself a nice little server, even if it's just shared hosting, learn how to change your DNS settings, learn how to get something from GitHub to a server, understand the terminal and the command line, learn basic things like rsync. Rsync is how you get something from your computer to a server. Make sure that you understand how to generate an SSH key and get your SSH key up onto the server. Things like that. If you can do basic DevOps, it's really, really going to help you. I can't think of a front-end development job where you would just sit and write HTML and CSS every single day and not also be doing those things. So yeah, I mean, definitely HTML and CSS are my main passion. I am currently taking a full stack development class and I am enjoying it a lot, seeing the depth of the back end. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, I don't enjoy object-oriented programming as much as some people do. I know there are people out there that are really good at that, Python, Java, all of that. I can do it. I don't love it as much as this. So this is definitely my passion right here. So, well, I think this is looking really, really good. This is looking really, really good. Let's take a closer look at this. Here's my mouse. Let's make this a little bigger. So we have our blog page set up with a layout. We have most of the kitchen sink text styled. We have a table. We have a block quote. We have pre-formatted text. We went through and learned a whole bunch new inline HTML tags that we didn't know about. And, for better or worse, we made decisions on, do we like these styles? Do we not like these styles? Is this acceptable? Do we need to do something else? There's no right or wrong answer. It's all about being informed and making a decision and then moving on. I love our styles for I think it's a definition list. Is that what it is? Why can't I ever remember what that's called? HTML. Where are you? Elements. Where are you? Description list. Description list. And then we have a ton of form styles. My gosh, look at these. Tons of form styles. We did buttons. We styled a select with a custom SVG arrow. So I think that I'm going to call it good for today. That means that next weekend, when we come back, we're basically going to get into the meat of the metadata. The meat of the metadata for the post. So that would be the author box, the related posts, the comment section, and then our comment form. How does our form look now? I mean, it's not the worst. Not the worst. So, yeah, I mean, famous last words, we should be able to get this done next weekend on Saturday. And then once that's done, we're going to jump into the blog page with a slider. Yes. So if we can get this done on Saturday, which I think we should be able to, then on Sunday, we can start building our vanilla JavaScript slider. I have never made, oh, look at this. They have styles here for a block quote. All right. I mean, we could update those styles. Did I miss that? No. So we could update our styles for a blog quote. I missed this. So we'll update the styles for the blog quote too. I mean, I kind of like what we have, but we could also add this blue color as a variable. It's a pretty minimalist template, but we could definitely go ahead and do that. Yeah, so I've never made a slider from scratch before, but I would love to do it. So vanilla JavaScript is the one thing that I struggle the most with. It just doesn't come naturally to me. So we're going to build a vanilla JavaScript slider, hopefully starting next weekend. This seems like a reasonable goal that we could start working on this by Sunday. Good progress on the stream. Keep up the hard work. Thank you. I like the look of web design, but I'm more interested in how websites can do amazing things like store data, process data, and so on. That's totally fair. I mean, I think that front-end development I think that there are two categories of front-end developer, clearly. I think there's my category, which is very much in being a UI developer, right? Somebody who really specializes in building out UIs, layouts, is SEO minded, accessibility minded. And then I think there's the front end developer who's probably really leaning into frameworks like Vue, Angular, React, where you're really, really working on bringing in data, sending data back to a database. You're building complex UIs that are being interacted with, right? I mean, that's the beauty of those frameworks, is the amount of interaction that's going on between the user and the app, and the constant flow of data going on between the user and the database. So that makes absolute sense to me. And I know front-end developers who are excellent developers in terms of using those frameworks, but they really struggle with this side of it. They are not good at building the layouts. They don't like it. They don't enjoy it. They don't care. They don't want to know how to do it, but they're still front-end developers, right? Because JavaScript is considered a front-end language. with Node, it is absolutely an object-oriented programming language, right? That's what it's turned into. But that means that front-end development, in my opinion, has been divided kind of into two categories. There's the people like myself who lean heavily into building the UIs, and then there's the folks who are really into the data, right? Storing data, processing data, moving data back and forth between the user and the app and the database. So that makes absolute sense to me. And you know, you should do whatever makes you happy, because we need good developers who love what they do and are good at what they do. And there's more than enough room for everybody, in my opinion. So, all right, I think this is where I'm going to leave it for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining me, hanging out with me in the chat. I appreciate the support so much. And I will be back again next weekend, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, Saturday and Sunday. Have a great rest of your day wherever you are, and I will see you later. Bye.